There was a time this summer when Arsenal supporters were dreaming about Vinicius Jr. A superstar, a world-class name, the kind of signing that immediately changes the way people look at a transfer window. Instead, Arsenal signed Christos Tzolis, a £34 million winger from Club Brugge who, before arriving in North London, was probably not even on the radar of most Premier League fans. But now something has changed, because after watching Tzolis throughout pre-season, and then seeing what he did against Manchester City in his first competitive start for Arsenal, it is becoming increasingly difficult to call him just a squad player. Against City, Tzolis produced 2 assists in a 3-0 Community Shield victory. First, he read the situation perfectly, attacking the ball and knocking it down for Kai Havertz to score. Then, just 3 minutes into the second half, he produced another moment of quality, finding Martin Ødegaard with a clever pass to put Arsenal 3 goals ahead. And that performance did not come out of nowhere. Across Arsenal's pre-season, Tzolis had already scored, created chances, delivered assists, won a penalty, and even stepped up to score the winning penalty in a shootout. In total, he had already contributed to goals and 5 assists since arriving at Arsenal, before even playing a single Premier League minute. And suddenly, the question is no longer, who is Christos Tzolis? The question is, how important could Christos Tzolis become for Arsenal? Because Arsenal may have signed him as an alternative after their pursuit of Vinicius Jr. failed. But if these early performances are anything to go by, they may have accidentally found a player who was never supposed to be the main story, but could end up becoming one of the most interesting stories of their season. The interesting thing about Christos Tzolis is that his Arsenal story did not begin this summer. Long before Arsenal paid around £34 million to bring him to North London, Tzolis had already experienced almost every stage of what it means to become a professional footballer. He broke through at PAOK as a teenager, and very quickly, people in Greece realised they were watching a player with something different. He was direct, aggressive, he wanted to attack defenders. And most importantly, he had an instinct for goal. By the 2020-21 season, Tzolis was already PAOK's leading scorer, finishing the campaign with 16 goals and helping the club win the Greek Cup. At that point, the next step looked obvious: England. Norwich City paid around £11 million for him in 2021, making him the most expensive player the club had ever sold. But this is where the story became complicated. Tzolis arrived in England with enormous expectations, yet things simply did not work. He scored twice and provided 2 assists on his Norwich debut in the 6-0 Carabao Cup victory over Bournemouth, but he struggled to establish himself as a regular Premier League player. Instead of continuing to develop in England, he was sent out on loan, first to FC Twente, then to Fortuna Düsseldorf, and that second loan became the turning point. In Germany, Tzolis finally began to look like the player everyone expected him to become. He scored 22 goals in 30 appearances in the second division Bundesliga. Suddenly, the player who had struggled to make an impact at Norwich was scoring at a remarkable rate, and that earned him another opportunity: Club Brugge. This is where Tzolis really rebuilt his reputation. In his first season, he produced 17 goals and helped Bruges win the Belgian Cup, but the following season was when everything exploded. 22 goals, 29 assists, 50 goal contributions in 50 games. He won the Belgian League, he won the Belgian Super Cup, and he was named the Pro League Player of the Season. That is the player Arsenal were actually buying. Not simply a winger who had enjoyed a good few months. Not a player being signed because Arsenal had failed to land another target. They were signing a 24-year-old who had already experienced failure in England, rebuilt himself abroad, and developed into one of the most productive attacking players in European football. And that matters because Arsenal did not need another player who simply looked good on a scouting report. They needed someone who could actually contribute. Someone capable of playing from the left, attacking space, carrying the ball, creating chances and, crucially, scoring goals. Tzolis had already shown he could do all of that. The question was whether he could bring it back to England. And so far, Arsenal have received a very interesting answer, because instead of needing months to adapt, Tzolis has looked comfortable almost immediately. And that brings us to the biggest reason his Arsenal start has been so exciting. It isn't just the goals or the assists, it is the way he's playing. to what makes Christos Tzolis different, because if you only look at the goals and assists, you are missing the most interesting part of Christos Tzolis. What makes him exciting for Arsenal is the way he plays. Tzolis is not the type of winger who wants to receive the ball, stop, turn backwards, and wait for the game to come to him. He wants to move forward, attack space, and when he gets the ball near the final third, his first instinct is usually to make something happen. That directness is one of the reasons he has adapted so quickly to Arsenal. He can receive the ball wide, drive inside, combine with the players around him, or attack the space behind a defender. And there is another part of his game that could become extremely valuable from Mikel Arteta. He's not simply looking to score, he wants to create. You can see that in the way he moves into dangerous positions before the final pass even arrives. Against Dortmund in pre-season, for example, Tzolis produced an inch-perfect cutback for Ethan Nwaneri to score, but he didn't stop there. He also won the penalty that Arsenal converted. Against Manchester City in the Community Shield, the same pattern appeared again. For his first goal contribution, Tzolis attacked the ball intelligently and knocked it down for Kai Havertz. Then, for Arsenal's third goal, he showed another side of his game. Instead of forcing the shot or trying to dribble through the defense, he spotted Martin Ødegaard's movement and played the pass at exactly the right moment. That is 2 assists, but 2 completely different types of assists. One came from his movement and physical presence. The other came from his awareness and passing. And that is what makes his profile so interesting. Tzolis can hurt you in more than one way. He can carry the ball. He can run beyond the defense. He can cut inside, combine and create. And he has already shown that he knows where the goal is. That combination is important because Arsenal's attack has increasingly become about having players who can occupy different positions without destroying the structure of the team. Tzolis gives Arteta another option. He can start from the left, but he does not have to remain glued to the touchline. He can move into the half space. He can come inside and combine with Ødegaard or the midfielders. He can attack the box when the striker drops deeper. And he can also stay wide and isolate a fullback. That unpredictability can make him particularly useful against teams that defend deep. And perhaps the biggest sign that Tzolis is beginning to understand what Arsenal want from him, how naturally he has combined with his teammates. He does not look like someone desperately trying to prove himself every time he touches the ball. He looks like someone who already understands where the next pass is supposed to go. That is exactly the quality Arteta highlighted when he described Tzolis as a very intelligent player who has massive quality in the final 20 to 30 meters. And that final part is crucial, because Arsenal did not sign Tzolis simply to give them another body on the wing. They signed him because they believe his final third quality can make the team more dangerous, and after what we have seen during pre-season, that decision is already beginning to make sense. But there is one more reason why his Arsenal start has become so interesting. Tzolis did not arrive as the superstar signing everyone was waiting for. He arrived after Arsenal's pursuit of Vinicius Jr. failed. And that means every impressive performance creates the same question. Did Arsenal actually miss out on Vinicius? Or did they find a different solution that could work even better for this team? There is another reason the timing of Christos Tzolis' arrival at Arsenal is so interesting. He did not walk into a completely settled attack, he walked into an opportunity. For several seasons, Leandro Trossard had been one of Arsenal's most reliable attacking players. He could play from the left, he could operate centrally, he could come off the bench and change a game. And when Arsenal needed a goal, Trossard was often one of the players Arteta could trust. But this summer, that relationship came to an end. Trossard left Arsenal for Besiktas, creating a significant vacancy in the squad. And Arsenal initially looked towards a completely different level of signing to fill that space. Vinicius Jr. The idea was obvious. If Arsenal could bring in one of the best attacking players in the world, they would immediately add another level of quality to their forward line. But the deal never materialized. Vinicius' contract became a major obstacle, and Arsenal eventually had to look elsewhere. That is where Tzolis enters the story, because on paper, the two players could not be more different. One is a global superstar who has already won everything at the highest level. The other is a player who had to rebuild his career but was struggling in England. But Arsenal were not necessarily looking for another superstar simply for the sake of having one. They needed a player who could actually fit the way Arteta wants his attack to function. And Tzolis offers something very interesting: versatility. He can start from the left, but he does not have to stay there. He can attack from wide areas. He can move inside. He can combine with midfielders. He can run beyond the striker. And he has the ability to arrive in the box and finish. That flexibility matters, because Arsenal's attacking structure depends heavily on players being able to change positions without the entire system falling apart. And there is another important comparison. Arteta has already described Tzolis as a player who is cut from a similar cloth to Trossard. Not because they are identical players, they are not, but because both can operate between positions, combine intelligently, and find solutions in the final third that could make Tzolis a much more natural replacement for what Arsenal lost than the transfer fee initially suggests. And then, there is the most exciting part. Arsenal did not bring Tzolis in and immediately throw him into a situation where he had to prove everything in one game. They gave him time, pre-season, different opponents, different situations. And almost every time he stepped onto the pitch, he gave Arteta another reason to trust him. Against Girona, he scored. Against Real Betis, he created. Against Dortmund, he assisted Nodody and won a penalty. And then came Manchester City, his first competitive start. And he provided 2 assists in a 3-0 victory. And suddenly, the conversation around Tzolis changed. This was no longer simply about whether Arsenal had found a decent replacement for Trossard. It became about whether they had found another genuine attacking weapon. Because Arsenal already have Bukayo Saka, they have Gabriel Martinelli, Gabriel Jesus, Kai Havertz, Victor Gyökeres. And now they have Tzolis pushing for a place. That competition is exactly what Arteta wants. Because the difference between a good squad and a championship-winning squad is often what happens when one of your best players is unavailable, out of form, or simply needs a rest. Arsenal cannot rely on the same 11 players for an entire season. They need players capable of coming into the team without dramatically changing the level of performance. And right now, Tzolis is giving Arteta something extremely valuable, a problem, a very good problem. Because if a player arrives as a £34 million squad option and immediately starts forcing his way into serious first-team conversations, the manager suddenly has a decision to make. And that decision could become one of the most interesting selection battles at Arsenal this season. Because Tzolis may have arrived as the alternative to Vinicius, but he is beginning to look like a player who wants to become much more than an alternative. So, where does all of this leave Christos Tzolis? Well, it is still very early. A few pre-season performances and one Community Shield appearance do not suddenly make a player a guaranteed Arsenal starter. The Premier League will be different, the pressure will be different, and eventually, Tzolis will have to prove that he can produce these performances consistently when the games actually start to matter. But there is something Arsenal can already be excited about. They have signed a player who has experienced failure, rebuilt himself, developed his game, and arrived in North London with something to prove. He has already shown what he can do. And perhaps most importantly, he looks like a player who is not afraid to make something happen. That is why his start at Arsenal has been so impressive. He was not the signing that dominated the headlines. He was not the superstar Arsenal supporters were dreaming about. He was not even supposed to be the biggest attacking story of the summer. But now, after everything we have seen, Christos Tzolis is becoming impossible to ignore. The £34 million signing has already produced 2 goals and 5 assists across his early Arsenal appearances, including 2 assists against Manchester City in his first competitive start. And suddenly, what looked like a compromise after Arsenal failed to sign Vinicius Jr. could turn into something completely different, because sometimes football gives you the player you did not know you needed. And Christos Tzolis has given Arsenal supporters a very early reason to believe that might be exactly what has happened here. Can he take this confidence into the Premier League? Can he force his way into Arteta's strongest 11? And can he turn a brilliant pre-season into a genuinely important Arsenal career? We are about to find out. But one thing is already clear. The Arsenal signing nobody was talking about is now impossible to ignore. If you have enjoyed this video, and you want more Arsenal stories, analysis and football documentaries like this, make sure you subscribe to Everyday Sports. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, share it with another Arsenal fan, and let me know in the comments.